How would I go about getting the audio of the hoax phone call that started the YFZ raid?
I have no idea.
Oh, but you and I both know it was a hoax. And so I think I know who did it. I was wondering who I would make that open records request to.
I don't know. I don't know if that's you want a call that went into the sheriff's or.
Well, but
anyway, you and I are getting far afield from the topic at hand here.
Right, but
and we got someone got a phone call that said that they were abusing little girls there.
That's right.
And so, take us through that. Were you the investigator, or were you one of the investigators on that?
You know, I was one of the investigators. I received a call from my captain, and he said, "Hey, I want you to go to the New Bridge Family Shelter." They received a call, and I think we're going to have to go in there, but we're going to have to keep it confidential and make sure you stress the importance to those ladies there that they don't release this information because of the nature of the call. So that was my day one call. Went and talked to those ladies. Sure enough, we ended up executing a search warrant out there for Sarah Barlow, the juvenile that we were looking for. We spent just under 7 days on the compound, and we gathered massive amounts of evidence. We ended up executing a search warrant out there for Sarah Barlow, the juvenile that we were looking for.
Raid was in response to a telephone call police received from a person claiming to be a 16-year-old girl whose 50-year-old spiritual husband had beat and raped her. The caller, supposedly named Sarah Jessup Barlow, has yet to be identified, and members of the polygamist religious sect, the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, deny her existence. Over the weekend, a Colorado woman named Rosita Swinton was taken into police custody and charged with false reporting to authorities. While police say Swinton's arrest is not directly related to the Texas case, they admit that Swinton is a person of interest in the investigation due to evidence uncovered in a search of her home that suggests she might be the one who placed the raid-triggering telephone call.
This is Rosita Swinton on her way into a Colorado court to answer charges related to allegedly making phony phone calls to police. Swinton is also linked to a phone number used to call a crisis center in Texas that may have triggered a raid on a polygamist ranch. That raid resulted in hundreds of children being taken from the ranch and their parents in April. They've all been returned, but not until members of the sect took their case to court. Officials in Texas have named Swinton a person of interest in the investigation into the calls that led to that raid. Swinton was charged with false reporting in mid-April in Colorado. Wednesday, a judge set a trial date of October 20th for those charges. She has entered a not guilty plea.
And a new twist in the investigation into that polygamy sect in Texas. Authorities now say the phone number that was used to report alleged abuse at the compound has been linked to Rosita Swinton. She is the woman suspected of making false abuse claims in Colorado. Authorities have released portions of those calls. They were apparently made to an Arizona-based crisis center for women trying to leave the polygamous culture. So this is Swinton again. She has not been arrested or charged with anything related to the case. Investigators are calling her, though, a person of interest.
In investigating this staged phone call, I found absolutely no evidence that links that staged phone call to Rosita Swinton. There is, however, plenty of evidence that links Ranger Brooks Long, Sheriff David Doran, and other law enforcement officers like Nick Hanna to the staging of the call. Not only to the staging of the call, but the planting of evidence to link Rosita Swinton to the call. I looked into some affidavits, some depositions, some news articles. These depositions and affidavits were from law enforcement officers themselves and from friends of Swinton's. Swinton's number was actually found on Sheriff David Doran's personal cell phone, and he made a call to her on April 8th of 2008, a 90-second call. Now, why would he be making a call without having it recorded? As a matter of fact, the Texas Ranger who found it stated that he didn't even know Doran had the number. And why didn't Doran tell them? And why did he place this call without recording it? What we have here is a bunch of incompetent law enforcement officers who cannot do things the right way, the legal way, the constitutional way, so they had to break the law. And you might be thinking, why is that so bad? They got the bad guy. Well, the truth is that they left the door open for the bad guy to get away with it. That's what incompetent law enforcement officers do. Just look at the O.J. Simpson case. The reason why we can't allow law enforcement officers to break the law is because when someone else comes along that they suspect has committed a crime and they have no evidence, then they think they can just manufacture it and get away with it. If you think all of this is just speculation and conspiracy theory on my part, I actually investigated the case. I actually looked into it. What have you done? I'm going to tell you what you did. I'm going to tell you what you believe. You believe that the largest raid and detainment of people and private property in U.S. history on U.S. soil was started by a woman, a mentally ill woman, 700 miles away, who had no ties to the FLDS church, had never stepped foot in Eldorado, Texas, or the compound or any compound. She made a call with a common name that's common among this compound here. She named specific names. She knew the families. She knew the details of the compound, the details of the raid, and what was going on. You believe that a woman did that as a hoax from her own phone number, knowing it could be traced. You're dumb. And then you think that law enforcement's dumb because you also believe that law enforcement fell for a stupid prank. On the other hand, if you were an incompetent law enforcement officer and you had to stage a phone call in order to raid someone's property, who would you blame it on? If you had to do that, who would you blame it on? Would you pick a woman with a history of making prank calls, a mentally ill woman, a woman with no means to fight the charges, a woman who grew up in foster care with very few family ties? Well, that's exactly who Rosita Swinton is.